saw it across the front room. Then he heard a strange voice. Jesus is watching you. And then again, Jesus is watching you. He looked around, and he seen this parrot in the corner. And he smiled to himself. He says, "What's your name, little man?" He says, "My name is Moses." With that, the bird would laugh, and he said, "What kind of crazy people would name their parrot Moses?" And the parrot said, "The same kind of crazy people that would name their 150-pound Rottweiler Jesus." Our family, several years ago, we had an African gray parrot. It was great. He talked up a storm, and we named him Kuja. Because I've got him from Busch Gardens, and I found this book of names, these Swahili names, that they named their roller coasters. And so I looked through it, and we came up with Kuja, which means to come. Kuja was coming. Seemed appropriate. And now as we reach the fourth Sunday of Advent, 3 days before Christmas, right? We recall that Latin word for Advent, which means to come. Jesus is coming. Christmas is coming. And you'll now notice that we've lit all 4 candles, and they're symbol to illuminate our hearts, fill them with joy and excitement of this Christmas time. But I'm afraid there are some of us who may not be filled with Christmas joy this time of year. Our minds are distracted. We're not focused on Jesus. They're focused on these secular things we're responsible for, the busyness of the world, and our preparations that we have to do. And joy is probably the last thing on our mind. So what about today's gospel story in Joseph? Do you think when he found out that his bride-to-be was pregnant, do you think he was filled with joy and excitement? I suspect initially not. He was probably devastated and heartbroken. And since he was a righteous man, he was going to do the right thing. Divorce her quietly, we heard. Send her away with family to have the child. But no, behold, it said, the angel of the Lord came to him in a dream and said, Joseph, do not be afraid. Take Mary into your home. And while Joseph surely still had these anxieties and these concerns, right? He wanted to do the right thing. He wanted to do the right thing. And he had these anxieties, and he probably knew there were people ridiculing him. Many of people probably knew that he wasn't the father of the child. But he was a good and just man, a man of faith, a man of God. And he chose to have joy in his heart. You see, joy and happiness. Joy doesn't require the circumstances of our life to see how we feel. You know, happiness does. Happiness requires. So when we feel good, we say, I'm happy because I feel good. Or I'm doing okay, I'm doing well, so I'm happy. Joy doesn't require that. Things could be going astray. They could be awful. And you can choose. You can choose to have joy in your heart. Seems like it's not possible. But I recall a class that I was giving for religious education, and we were watching a video from Father Mike. And he described joy, and I just didn't forget it. Joy is this abiding sense of well-being, knowing that God loves us. Think of that. This abiding sense of well-being, knowing that God loves us. And we choose to live in this abiding sense of well-being. We make that choice, knowing that God loves us. Things could be awful in our life, and we make that choice. Circumstances may be like Joseph. Maybe the circumstances are bad in our life, and we have to go through and choose that, because even though our circumstances are gloomy, they may seem gloomy this time of year, we have to remember that Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming to restore the joy that may be missing from our life. Jesus is coming to refresh our memory of his saving presence within us. Jesus is coming to restore those genuine hopes that we have for our lives. We heard in describing the events in the gospel leading up to the birth of Jesus, Matthew concludes by telling us, all this took place to fulfill the word spoken by the Lord through the prophets. It says, the virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will name him Emmanuel, a word that means God is with us. As we ponder the mystery of the incarnation, let us prepare our hearts and our minds for this Christmas celebration, this indescribable gift of God with us, of Jesus coming into our lives. God gave us his Son to love us and to be with us. And he wants us to be filled with joy. And Emmanuel, name that means God is with us. Now we know that Jesus is coming in Christmas Day. We know that he comes at the end of time. And many times we forget that God is with us in our everyday lives, in our ups and downs, in our joys and sorrows, in our problems and our concerns. He's always there. But at times, does he feel like he may not be with you? Did you ever feel that God wasn't with you? It's not because he wasn't there. It's because you've misplaced him. You've been detracted. You pushed him aside because you had other concerns. And so as we reflect on this term, God is with us, this term Emmanuel, the whole point of our Christmas story is God is with us. God doesn't remain aloof in the heavens. He's with us every day, in the grocery store, in the hospital waiting rooms, in our kitchens, in our family rooms, and most importantly, he's in our hearts. Prophet Isaiah said, the people that walk in darkness have seen a great light. The Christmas light is near. The Lord is at hand. Come, let us adore him.